given that cos of alpha is negative 4/5, find the other trig ratios. And then in part B, solve for all possible values between 0 and 360 that could be angle alpha. So first of all, if we're going to solve this eventually, we have to figure out which quadrants could this be in. Yes, according to the cast rule where it says where things are positive, here we have cos being negative, so it has to be in quadrant 2 or 3. If we draw a picture of what's happening, we would have a reference angle in quadrant 2. We would have a reference angle in quadrant 3. Yes. Alpha is just another measure for an angle. In fact, now I should actually, when I write this down to be proper, I should write my reference angle as alpha with a little r. Thank you. If it was cos x, we'd write x with a little r for our reference angle. And since cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, this side would be 4, this side would be 5, this side would be 4, this side would be 5. If you wanted to figure out the other trig ratios, which are the ones we haven't found, are sine alpha and tan alpha, we would need to have the other side, because we only have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. Do you recognize the triangle? What's the other side going to be? No. It's going to be 3. You figured out the hypotenuse, yeah? So you were figuring out, and this is our famous 3, 4, 5 triangle, where all the numbers are nice. So now, what would sine of alpha be? Well, look at our reference angle. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. It'll be 3/5. Will it be positive or negative? Positive. What about here? Negative. So because it's positive in quadrant 2 for sine, but negative in quadrant 3, it could be both. I asked that kind of meanly. Is it positive or negative? And the answer is both. Oh. And tan, opposite over adjacent, will be 3/4. And because tan is positive in quadrant 3 and negative in quadrant 2, also could be positive or negative. So that's part A. Determine the other trig ratios. We knew cos, so we had to find sine and we had to find tan. So that's what the question was asking. We still use the same strategy. Draw a triangle and solve from there. This unit in particular, I'm not going to assign you the online stuff, because if you do the show me how to do it, they use a technique similar to what they have at the side, and I think it's more confusing than drawing a triangle. Because once you've drawn a triangle, you know sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and it's easier to figure it out. So now for part B, if you wanted to find these two angles, if you wanted to find this angle and this angle, we're going to need to find our reference angle. So we're going to start. What did we know? We know cos of our reference angle is 4/5. Again, anytime you're finding your reference angle, you're thinking about an actual triangle, and all of your values are going to be positive. So even though the original question started with a negative 4/5, once we're thinking about our actual triangle and have all those lengths there, we're going to have a positive 4/5 there. Now we're going to have to use our calculator because that's not one of our memorized values. And we do cos inverse of 4/5, and we get 37 degrees to the nearest degree. So now that we know that this angle here is 37 degrees, and this angle here is 37 degrees, we can solve what our actual angles for alpha are. This one's going to be 180 minus 37, 143. And this one, 180 plus 37, 217 degrees. So the question you can do for practice here is number 13.